Okay, so that's me. I'm faculty at MIT. And do a variety of other things. Advise several different countries in their infrastructure. And I run a group which does a wide variety of things. We just started law.mit.edu, which is a consortium of law schools thinking about how computational methods are going to change law. Pretty interesting. But we also build stuff. So I took over a group at MIT which does historically does security. So it used to be Cerberus is the authentication method that they developed to support it. It does 85% of all the identity authentication in the world. We also co-chair the development of the OpenID Connect, which is sort of the next generation of that, which is for mobile phones. It's called Open Connect, and Mobile Connect rather, and that's a international standard. And now what we do is we're developing the next level of essentially ways of handling data and ways of doing AI that intrinsically are much more suited to privacy concerns and security concerns. And I'll just give you a flavor of that because it's a different way of thinking about things. These are some of the people that fund us, Ernst & Young, for tax systems, working with the World Bank there, and the European Development Bank. AFC is the French research organization that's funding us to set up national systems in Senegal and Colombia. IBM and MasterCard using our techniques for secure digital identity in Africa. We just spun up, they spun up all these ideas for a national identity system in Kenya. With Jewett, how many of you use TurboTax or any of those sorts of things? Okay, so your tax return is on a blockchain, and that's to be able to make sure that there's no security around it, and that's something that we can develop. And there's a number of other sort of countries that are part of this. Anyway, so this is me wearing a tie. Doesn't happen often. You guys are going to get tired of my joke because you've heard me too often before. But this is when the European Union president invited me to lecture all the ministers of the single digital market, so all 27/28 on how to structure their national systems for greater security and for greater compliance with things like data localization and privacy. Right? And it's really pretty simple. And the key thing is said there is, although this is computer speak, don't move data around. Leave data where it's collected. What people try to do, sort of a natural thing, is create data lakes. Data lakes are a fantastic way to fail because 70% of all breaches are human error or human intent to do things. And so if you put all the data in one spot, you've gotten now high odds, because this is a repeated trial thing, that all of your data will go. If you have it distributed around so there are no copies of data, but only the data where they exist, where they were collected, then you will lose several things to attack, but you will never lose all. So the Army, military figured this out about 500 years ago. They used to have moats, remember, and big walls. And it turned out somebody would open the door in the back and they'd lose everything. And they went to distributed defense in depth. That's basically sort of the idea. When you do that, it gives you a couple of things. So could you go to the next slide? So the way we do it is we use a secure ledger. Blockchain is the sexy word for it now. Get distracted by that. It's just a distributed ledger that is extremely hard to corrupt. So instead of you giving me your data, I say, well, would you answer some questions for me? And I send on this secure ledger, of course this is all encrypted, on the secure ledger I send you a question. You evaluate the question, You send me back the answer. Okay? I never see the data. You can then twist the questions so that they don't violate privacy, so that they don't expose other sorts of things. We call this architecture open algorithms, because algorithms are actually posted for everybody to see, and we don't run them, we run them. You know, we have to trust you, so there's a legal contract that enforces that, just like when you report your taxes. You don't cheat on your taxes, right? Well, maybe cheat a little bit, but you can tell when things are bad by comparing data sources. Yeah, so this is the idea. I ask you things, you answer them. That way there's fewer copies around. One of the major things that gives you is the ability to audit everything. So today, you know, we make these data lakes. We don't really know where data goes. We put data out there, it goes God knows where. And just as a parenthesis, data, AI, same thing. AI is an expression of patterns in data. If you control the data, you control the AI. If you don't have the data, the AI won't do things. It's really all the sort of same thing. Okay? Just say, okay? So, for instance, go to the next slide. So this is work that we did on the next slide. Yes? Okay. Next slide. There we go. Oh, I see. It's actually very inexpensive to set up these systems. When I was chair of AT&T's board, the data board, we set up the whole AT&T system this way. It was a rounding error in the budget. The government of Estonia set this up right after they left Russia, or the USSR. It's not an expensive thing to do. It doesn't require redoing your data. It doesn't require loss of ownership of data or things like that. We worked with the government of Colombia up here to be able to audit their social systems. This is a tax transfer program. And what we discovered by having this sort of where does the data go network, right? And under what conditions does it go? We discovered that almost 1 million people out of the 40 million residents, citizens, are getting benefits that they shouldn't get, right? However, that's balanced by 1 million people who aren't getting benefits that they should get. So all they have to do is swap the two without causing a revolution. Because obviously moving money from one group to another. So what they're doing now is they're putting in place the new rules that more correctly are fair to different ethnic groups. And as people enroll new, then they'll come under the new rules, the old ones, just let it go until things expire. So these are the sorts of things that you can do. You can also detect cyber attacks, almost proactively. So one of the things that people haven't quite grasped is that the rise of Internet of Things, cell phones, little devices everywhere, means that the attack surface for cyber attacks is going up exponentially. So the big Target breach, where they lost a lot of data, happened from somebody who was repairing their refrigeration system, I think it was, and hacked into their point-of-sale system, and then from there propagated up. As things become more digital, you get this incredible network expansion of attack points. And this notion of leaving data where it is, only answering questions that are audited becomes increasingly important. So we've worked with MasterCard to be able to do this. We were sort of talking about, and I think it will happen, we'll probably announce it at Davos this year, MasterCard is going to proactively provide security systems for small businesses everywhere in the world for free. And the reason is that if you think about MasterCard's business, you can wipe out all those small businesses very easily because they're not sophisticated, they're not big, and they don't have staff and stuff like that to protect themselves. If those businesses get wiped out, MasterCard goes away. So this is risk management for them. And it's not expensive to do. It just requires auditing all of the things that are happening. so that you can detect. Now, the auditing, interestingly, doesn't require actually looking at the data. So you can have, and this is what MasterCard actually happens. Can you go to the next slide? You can have only the ability to look at encrypted data. So you can't see the raw data at all. So legally, you can move encrypted data without violating localization laws and without violating privacy laws, because you can't see the data. Right? All you can see is patterns in the data. You don't know what is data about or who. But it turns out that you can detect patterns of fraud very well. So MasterCard can't see your banking data, but they can see that, oh, it went from here to there. That's their job, is to move the money from here to there, right? And they're legally prohibited by contracts from looking at the data. But you can still tell when bad things are happening. Let me give you a simple example. Go to the next slide. Next slide.
I think it's the end.
It's not the end of it.
No, it's maybe the second. Here, just freeze.
But anyway, so the short of it, the long and short of it is that when you see patterns of communication that are unexpected, that's a place to be suspicious. So you don't actually have to see the data. If I see that you do, every time you do something, she does something, then you two are probably working together. And if it turns out you're a crook, she's probably a crook too. And you can use this very powerfully. Let's not worry about the slide, we're just going to distract people. So actually, several different organizations are using this. Military organizations tends to be small nations that adopt this stuff first. For instance, I can tell you a little bit about Singapore, which is Singapore believes that within the next 3 years, they're going to be massively attacked with security fraud. And the security fraud will all be encrypted with the cryptocurrencies of various sorts. And they have to be able to look for illegal cash transfers and fraudulent things and all sorts. But of course, they don't get to see the data because it's all encrypted. It's in all sorts of countries, things coming in and out. It's a country of trade. And so what we've developed is techniques for analyzing these encrypted streams of data, these encrypted cash transfers, other sorts of transfers, to be able to detect patterns of fraud. And it works pretty well. Next for hand doctors here. And so I have an example in there, and this is for another military organization. Where we were able to achieve 5 nines accuracy in detecting terrorist groups without being able to look at the data. Just looking at the patterns of encrypted data that were happening. So that's pretty good. Anyway, all done. Thank you. Yeah, happy to answer questions if you want.
Okay.
You've got time. Oh, there's this Thursday thing. Yeah, so they, this organization gave us.
I'm opening it.
Okay, we're opening it. Uh-oh. We could have just left it. So they gave us 50 training samples of terrorist website, Twitter accounts that they had found by hand, expensively. And they held back 74. And what the task was is for us to look at all the Twitter accounts in the world, hundreds of millions, and figure out which ones were members of the same group. And of course, they hide this in all sorts of terrorists. So out of the top 200 that we found, we got 72 of the 74. So that's, first of all, the training data was very small. So it wasn't big data, it was small data, which is really important for these sort of things where you don't have a lot of examples. And the notion of getting 122 out of 124 accounts, or 72 out of 74, whichever way you want to calculate it, divided by the numbers of Twitter accounts that there are, is what gives you the 5 accuracy. And it's basically just what I said. You're looking for patterns that are non-coincidental. Sir?
Sandy, how sensitive is the metadata that you're using to analyze this? Because the same technique that identifies those terrorist networks can also identify people who are trying to protest against some unjust government action, or pick your favorite example.
Yep, and you're right. This is one of these things where, it's Promethean fire. Yeah, you can find the bad guys, you can also find the good guys. So what that points to is the sensitivity of the metadata, and you have to control that as well. Right? So not only do you have to audit what's happening, is you have to and encrypt the data. You have to encrypt the metadata and only allow access to it under certain conditions. You can also do medical stuff with it, as you're available. Not all medical stuff, obviously, but yeah. So anyway, it's a wild west out there. There's going to be dramatically more attack points, which means that you ain't seen nothing yet in terms of cyber attack. It's going to be all encrypted, which means most of the techniques that people use to detect these things won't work. I think that the thing that I'm advocating to people is that you need to put a complete audit system in place for all data users. And that sounds really expensive, but it's not. It is a different way of doing business, okay? And it will require some legislation. But I think the time is now to do something. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.